common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Joining us now, you guys, we have Karl Rove, former senior advisor to President George W. Bush. Karl, we were just talking about all the threats to the homeland, just how serious things are right now with Congressman Mike Rogers. And yet we're just hearing more and more about Tim Walz, who is the new running mate for Kamala Harris. Your thoughts first on just how dangerous many of his positions are for America.
Yeah. Well, first, let me say something about Mike Rogers, whom I worked with when I was at the White House. He was the Intelligence Committee chief and chairman, and wonderful guy. He's not only smart and humble, but he's also very funny. And most important of all, he has achieved the thing that should commend him most to the people of Michigan in voting for him, and that is he married above himself. His wife is really terrific. And Mike is lucky to.
Yes.
Why she keeps him around? Why she keeps him around is beside the point.
We'll have to ask him. We'll have to find out.
She wants to be married to a U.S. senator.
Yeah, ask her. I mean, ask her. There we go. No, look, Walz was a safe pick in the sense that he is basically nondescript. He's a Minnesota liberal, and. He has comfortable positions. We've seen it expressed in the legislation that he has pushed through with a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate in his public statements. But he's a left winger but pleasant and not particularly important one way or the other. This was her first presidential decision. Does anybody look at that guy and say, "Oh yeah, if something terrible happened to her, I'd have every confidence that the country would be in good hands"? No. He is a guy who didn't have the supposed downsides of Josh Shapiro. That is to say, the hatred of the far left of the Democratic Party. He hadn't expressed strong opinions in favor of Israel. He hadn't been a independent-minded individual who would break with Democratic orthodoxy in a couple of things like school choice, like Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. And he was an unusual governor in the sense that when he ran for re-election, he got a smaller percentage of the vote than he got the first time around. Most of the time, what happens is you do so well in your first term, you win by a bigger margin the second time. But in blue state Minnesota, the land of not only 10,000 lakes, but 20,000 lunatics, left-wing lunatics, this guy gets smaller percentage of the vote. And what does that say about him? It says that he is not a very particularly strong leader, and there's not much in his background that leads us to believe that if he were standing a heartbeat away from the presidency and something bad happened, that the country would be in good hands. You know
what I think of, Karl Rove? When I think of Tim Walz, all I think about, is during the riots, he let Minnesota burn. And the Democratic mayor there was begging for the National Guard. And he was saying, too bad. If he let Minneapolis burn, do I want that same guy to be running America at some point? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, look, for 3 days, the Twin Cities were in flames, and people were in desperate shape, and it was not a good look. And why he stood aside is beyond me. Of course, also it's beyond me why then President Trump didn't excoriate him for having sat on his hands for 3 days before he finally accepted the request of the Minneapolis mayor. Think about it. We're talking about the Minneapolis mayor. We're not talking about a center-right person. We're not talking about a conservative leader. We're talking about the mayor of one of the most liberal towns in America, and he was saying, "Governor, please help restore public order on the streets of our city and protect our citizens. Deploy the guard." And Walz didn't do it. So, again, this is, we don't elect presidents based on vice presidents. I mean, look, remember Spiro T. Agnew, for God's sake? Mm-hmm. I mean, we elected Nixon, and Nixon carried, 49 of 50 states. But they do say something about the first presidential decision that a presidential candidate makes. And her decision was, I don't want to upset my party. It's left wing. I don't want to have somebody who's seen as strong and effective. I want to pick a guy who could be a Midwestern attack dog. And what does that have to do with being vice president of the United States? Maybe he'll do an exemplary job of taking internet rumors and attacking the Republican vice presidential nominee. But that doesn't say anything about his ability to do the job, and little in his record suggests that he is up to the top job.
You know, some of the first people who congratulated him were Jamal Bowman, the fire alarm puller, also Omar. Rashida Tlaib said he's the greatest thing in the world.
And who's the other one that lost?
Oh yeah, Cori Bush.
Cori Bush.
That's right. In Missouri, just lost.
2 down. How many to go?
Look,
yeah, a few.
I know him. I saw him when he got elected to Congress in 2006. He sort of campaigned. The Republican incumbent had some problems. He ran as sort of a clean guy from the outside. I'm going to be sort of a moderate, independent-minded guy. And as long as he thought he needed to sort of throw an occasional bone to the right, he did. That's why here was a guy endorsed by the NRA in one election, because they were trying to find Democrats who claimed that they're in favor of the Second Amendment. But when he no longer needed that, he continued to move left. That's why he became a favorite of the squad. And then when he became governor, my God, the guy moved far to the left, and even further to the left when he got a Democrat state house and a Democrat state senate. The first time he ran for governor, he said, I'm going to work with the Republicans, and then stiff-armed them. And when he got a Democrat house and a Democrat senate, passed a whole slew of very left-wing legislation, including declaring the state to be a refugee state for trans kids. So if you want to go and make certain that you can have gender affirming,
make sure you have tampons in the men's bathroom.
Yeah,
that's right. They call him Tampon Tim.
That's a brilliant idea.
Tampon Tim is the new nickname.
We got to take a break. Thank you, Karl Rove, and have a great weekend. And pray for America.
Thank you, sir.